All right, thank you. Can everybody hear me? So how many of you have experienced augmented reality? Okay, how many of you have experienced the HoloLens with augmented reality? All right, about the same. How many of you piloted this technology in your facility? Okay, we got like 2. How many are in production? Okay, great. So I'm going to talk about production today. All right. So I got a good audience here to talk to. So when we looked at augmented reality, it was very much of a wow technology. When we first saw it and saw the demonstrations, like, okay, this looks like the future. Not quite sure how this works or how we're going to get it out there, but 3 years ago, it was something that we definitely wanted to invest in. And so what we did is we said, what really can we do where we don't need the 3D models, we don't need the digital twins, we don't need all this information, which at Chevron we have, vast levels of quality of the data in our facilities today. So we said, let's look at remote expert. How can we help our field workers basically get access to the experts? So we came up with this saying, we said basically any expert anywhere in the world in under a minute. And so that was kind of the project that we said, by getting it out there, we'll get this technology out there and get our field personnel starting to get familiar with it, okay? So when you look at it, when you look at remote expert, or what we call remote expert, there are actually 4 or 5 or 6 scenarios that are related to that, or ways you can use that. So the most obvious is the remote expert. I've got a problem in the field. I need somebody there who is maybe located in Houston, and this is a facility in California. How do I get them there? Well, today, that person goes and books a flight, gets on a plane, flies out there, and basically diagnoses the problem, and then comes back. So we wanted to basically enable that remote expert to be able to be kind of virtually transported to any field anywhere in the world. And we have locations all over the world. I'll talk more about that in a moment. The other one is just remote inspection or audit. So this is where we're building things globally. And we need the ability to basically look at the work that's being done, verifying it's being done, period, and also verifying the quality of it. And so that's what we call remote inspection and remote audit. Just simple field workers. So we have large facilities, very geographically dispersed over large, some of them are over hundreds of miles in some of our fields in California as an example. So how do we enable those field workers to communicate back to maybe an integrated operations center and basically virtually transport those engineers that are there to the site to allow them to kind of experience the problem that the field engineer is seeing. Engineering, allowing them to basically be transported into the field where we're working. Factory acceptance tests. This is another thing that we've actually seen a lot of value in, where we get things built for us, we go there, we inspect. We had one example where we had a blending line built for us. We sent an inspector there. He inspected everything over a day and a half. Then he made a remote syscall back to the expert in Houston. They reviewed it. In an hour and a half, they identified 3 other things, and that expert did not have to fly to site, as an example. And then lastly, vendor facility audits. So we do a lot of manufacturing, and vendors build things for us. We'll go and audit their facilities and make sure they're manufacturing things to our level of quality. So how do we do this? So when you look at the key benefits for this, it's really the hard benefits. The big one is travel costs. It's very quantifiable. We know exactly what it's going to save us. And so these are examples of how we benefit just from reducing or eliminating those travel costs. The other is just the expert's time. So eliminating that expert's time traveling, that's just not really value add for that expert to be there. So a lot of value being saved there. There's the whole obvious value of time to resolution of the problem. So getting a line back on, into production, solving the problem that's potentially impacting production. So that one's a little bit harder to quantify, and people are a little bit more hesitant to give you a number of how much that added time saved you. And then some of the soft benefits are obviously safety. Not putting experts into a location where they've never been before. Maybe they have to go through the field safety training there, but they're still just not as familiar as they are with the people that are local. The work-life balance, so being able to, less stress with the travel and everything else going into the office. And then one of the things that we look at is just accessing some of our retired experts. So the great thing about this technology is I don't have to be in the office. I can be at home at my coffee table with my iPad fired up or my tablet fired up and basically be able to see exactly what's in the field. So a lot of flexibility for the expert to really be anywhere. He can be on vacation. We've had people that have been on vacation had to come home. Now we're targeting to where they won't have to do that. Okay? So I thought the best thing to do is to show a quick video of this. This is a video we put together. It also makes me where I don't have to talk for 3 minutes. This is at our El Segundo refinery. So this is available on YouTube. You can find it searching HoloLens and Chevron. I'll let this play. Chevron's journey with innovation has been going on for over 100 years. What Chevron is looking for in new technologies is basically technologies that are different. They bring a lot of value into the company, that increase our safety within the company, and bring financial savings to us.
We have to have reliable and incident-free operation because that's when the refinery is up and most stable and in its safest mode.
Even a second of downtime is significant given the volume and scale that these facilities operate on.
The refinery itself is a set of hardware. Really what makes the difference in a performance and utilization space is how our people interact with that hardware, and that's where technology comes in.
Being able to use technology to improve our communication makes our lives more efficient and allows us to spend our time on more value-added work.
When we first saw the HoloLens, this was just a transformational technology. This is a technology that is going to take us to kind of the next level of digitization. Chevron uses Dynamics 365 Remote Assist for two core scenarios. The first one being Remote Expert, where we put any expert anywhere in the world in under a minute. And the other one being Remote Inspection, where we allow our inspectors to inspect the construction and the operations of our facility in real time. We have facilities all over the globe. We have facilities in areas that we can't get to all the time. So being able to digitally transform that expert into the field within a minute or so is foundational and just transformative.
This saves our engineers and our folks tons of time in how they go about doing their normal work every single day. That's a tremendous reduction in operating expense for us as a refinery, but also it makes their job a whole lot easier.
It's critical that the team's able to innovate and change. That's really what gives us the competitive advantage against other refineries.
Out-of-box solutions are important to Chevron because we simply don't have the expertise to build those solutions and maintain them long-term. We're not a software company. We're not going to do it as well as a Microsoft would, and it's just not cost efficient for us in the long term. We've acquired over 100 HoloLenses. It's another device just like our laptops and our phones, and we hope to get to thousands of HoloLenses. From a Chevron perspective, the HoloLens is just a brand new technology that's enabling us to do things that we couldn't do in the past. So back to the presentation. Yep. I'm gonna have to get them. There you go. Any chance we can advance that back to the slide we were on? Let them do it. So that was a video we shot in partnership with Microsoft at our El Segundo refinery, and allowed us to basically, communicate the value across our organization, as well as Microsoft leveraged that as well. So what are some of the key challenges for the production rollout? So one was really business expectations. This really has to just work. This can't be something that's kind of finicky, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. So we think of it as a hammer or as a drill. It just has to work. And then also really understanding and managing their specific expectations and ensuring the product meets that. So there were a lot of expectations of what this could or couldn't do, and we wanted to make sure we really set those expectations very clearly. Very important to this is IT alignment, right? We could deploy this in one facility and maybe get it through that with partnership, but making sure that we're really aligned with IT. So this was really integrating it into our device management systems. So where we have thousands of iPhones globally, we can now manage these at that same level and scale. Network certification, security review. Our collaboration platform for this is Teams. So this product basically running on the HoloLens can call any Teams client in Chevron. How many of you use Microsoft Teams? Okay, great. So how many of you have used Microsoft Skype for Business? Okay, pretty much everybody. So Teams is kind of the replacement for Skype. We actually, when we started working with Microsoft, it was first being kind of prototyped on Skype for Business. But Teams is their long-term pattern for path for this, and so we had to wait a little bit to get that integration there. But that's a huge benefit because now we can call anybody, right? And then really managing all the licensing model and managing the shared devices, because we're not going to give everybody a HoloLens. We're going to have them kind of as a kind of a, you almost think of it as like an instrument that we're using, same level. Okay, so let's talk about some of the key capabilities and benefits, because if you haven't experienced this, you really want to understand how this is really working. So the key thing here is this is true 3D understanding of the field worker's environment. So that device, the HoloLens, is actually scanning the environment the field worker is in real time and updating it 90 times a second. Okay, so if you've ever used or heard of the Xbox Kinect, you're basically wearing a Kinect in the front of that HoloLens device. And so what that does is that 3D mesh model now allows the expert to attach drawings and arrows into that 3D model. Okay, and so that's a little bit different than if everybody watched the NFL, and so you know the yard line markers where the first down is, and the yellow line, it looks like it's painted on the field. So as they pan to different camera angles, that thing's locked in place. When I drop an arrow onto let's say a valve or a piece of instrument, it's locked in three-dimensional space. As I walk around, that stays there. If I walk to the other side, it stays there. If I back up 100 feet, it stays there, right? That's very, very important to making sure we don't somehow point to a valve and then as the guy moves, the arrow moves with him. So that 3D awareness is critical for this. And that's not just for the drawing, it's for attaching other things. Seeing and hearing the expert, we really didn't appreciate how valuable this was until we actually started piloting this. And what we noticed is the field worker would talk to the expert. He would actually turn and look at the live video feed of the expert. So one of the things it does, just like if you're doing a video call on Teams or Skype or FaceTime, you're going to get a video feed. And so that video feed is floating as a floating image of the expert sitting there right by the piece of equipment. You just pin it there, and as he looks at the instrument, he turns back and he was looking at the expert and basically conversing with him. So he's able to read the expert's kind of facial expressions. So if he notices he's about to turn a valve and the expert goes, don't do that, he can actually see that. So it's like the expert is there. That was a really interesting discovery we found. Taking pictures and video recording of the call so we can actually record the entire interaction, and it stores the holograms with them. Uploading of the images and PDF documents into their environment and remotely into OneDrive. So this whole integration with Office is really powerful. So as soon as I take a picture, I can just share that directly to anybody in my corporation. Or Chevron's policy is with OneDrive, it's like email. I can share it with anybody in the world, right? So if that's a video or picture, that immediate sharing, which is typically a higher fidelity image than what you would get just from the video stream. The sharing the desktop applications. So this is something they actually just recently improved on with the release this month, where when I share my desktop, I can share any application. So if I have an engineering application that field worker needs to see, no problem. I can share my desktop, and the fidelity that it's rendered on my PC is the fidelity that's actually streamed out to the guy in the field. So he can actually get up very close to it and see very detailed P&ID drawings. We can also upload those drawings to the field worker, so he can view PDF documents as well as bitmaps and images in the field, and he can pin multiple ones around his workspace. So that's also very powerful. And then really the running of the holographic application. So this is a Windows 10 device, so I can run any of the Windows Store apps. I also have a browser in there. It's the same browser that runs on my desktop. That browser can basically communicate to anything. So one of the things we did is like, let's pull up a Pi process graphic in there. So we went to Pi Visions, typed in the URL, pops up, sitting there streaming, just like I had a big 40-inch monitor right there beside me. So I can pop up, and it doesn't limit you to the number of, well, there's a minimal limitation, but you can have multiple screens of that floating around. And then really the big thing that we worked closely with Microsoft on is to get the certifications for it. So very early on, they got the Z87 certification for the impact resistance on the face shield, but we got them last summer to get the Class 1 Div 2 certification. So you can actually find those certifications in the UL registry out there, and then the integration with the hard hat that Trimble provides. So all those things really allowed us to get to the point of deployment, which is where we are right now with Chevron. We put this into production back in October of last year, and we're rolling out globally. So that's it very quickly. I'll transition to Will.